So in this video I will answer the rest of the questions asked about Lilith in a session I had with you guys around a month ago. So the first question was what Lilith does in her free time. So I don't know how to answer this question really. The person who asked this question also asked what Lilith wants. And I don't know, from people, she generally wants to expand her energetic influence and evolve spiritually. From spirits who serve under her, she wants them to obey her. And technically, the demands of Lilith will vary from individual to individual. She is really individualistic in nature and mysterious, so it all depends on your individual work with her. There are certain general guidelines, but in most of the time she teaches vampirism, sexual sorcery, gives visions, sexual empowerment, opens a third eye, teaches dark mysteries of the night side, opening of the gates, elevation of the soul, alchemical transformation, glamour magic, beautification magic, advanced forms of baneful magic. Those are things she mostly teaches. She is also really good at finding sexual pleasure, and she is mostly called for seduction spells. The second question is what we can do in the world to help Lilith actively. Now, there are three main things you can do from my experience. One is to practice sexual sorcery on a high level. Another is to practice vampirism on a high level. And the third thing you can do is to open gateways for her. So those are three things you can do to help Lilith actively in her agenda. Now, third question I already answered in a previous video. Question number 4 is what's relationship between Lilith and Samael? So relationship between Lilith and Samael is the same as a relationship between it's a really complex relationship. But to keep it simplified, the closest male entity to Lilith is Samael, and the closest female entity to Samael is Lilith. However, they both have multiple entities they are associated with, both male and female. Lilith is closest to Samael, but it doesn't mean that Samael is the only entity who is close to Lilith. They are kinda morally and spiritually opposite, so while Lilith is dark, Samael is light. Alchemy of Lilith tends to be intoxicating, while alchemy of Samael tends to be also intoxicating, but on a completely different level and in a completely different way. Alchemy of Lilith is like if you are drinking poison, which is giving you terrible vision, while alchemy of Samael is as if somebody is impaling you with fucking sword all the time. Alchemy of Lilith is more like seductive, and it is dark and it is sinister, while Alchemy of Samael is more brutal and warlike. So that's the main difference between the two. So next question is how to communicate with Lilith and how to develop astral senses. Well, how to communicate with Lilith, it's a really complex question. There are many ways of communicating with Lilith, really. How I like to communicate with Lilith if you're a beginner is invoke Lilith before you go to sleep until you feel her energy really intensely, and then go to sleep, and Lilith will show you herself in dreams after some time. Then, how to open astral senses, that's a really difficult question. I recommend for beginners to perform Black Moon exercise and raising of the sacred space. That's already presented on the channel, but for the purpose of this clip, let's just say the following. You visualize the black moon penetrating your third eye and coming out of the back of your head, and you visualize it until you feel the pain in your forehead really heavily. When that happens, you stop visualizing. Some people reported that they do the exercise and they don't feel the pain. My personal note on this is you simply need to visualize stronger. If you visualize strong enough, headache will come, definitely, and it came to everyone who kind of did this with intense enough visualization. So if effect isn't appropriate, simply improve your visualization efforts. Now, the next question is Lilith connected with the number 7 and the number 77, and which are her numbers? Now, she definitely has a connection with number 7, in my opinion. However, for number 77, I am not competent to speak because I am not connected to the numerology. It's not my cup of tea. It's not something I know really well. And which are her numbers? Well, her numbers in my experience are 3, 9, and 4. 3 for the power of Trinity and her 3 stages. 9 for the number of destruction. And 4 as her title of one of the 4 empresses and lady of one of the 4 cardinal directions. Somebody asked about wolf and dragon aspect of Lilith. In my personal experience, she doesn't have a wolf aspect. For the dragon aspect, that aspect of her is called Tanisa, which is the mother of dragons. If you wanted to call Tanisa, the chant is Sha Tanisam, Sha Ama Draconia. And just repeat this chant over and over again in a sacred space to summon draconian aspect of Lilith. I don't recommend this for beginners because aspect of Lilith, draconian aspect, is a little bit more intense. So my personal advice for this is be careful when working with the dragon aspect. Dragon aspect is good for protection, advanced alchemy, and self-transformation. The dragon aspect is really chaotic and not really sexual. If you want classical experience, call Sukubai aspect of Lilith. If Lilith doesn't reply to the incantation, invocation, or evocation, does it mean that she didn't hear me, or do I need a full evocation for her to reply? My personal commentary on this question is as follows. Before summoning any spirit, try to develop your astral senses. Perform Black Sun Astral Senses Development Exercise or Black Moon Astral Senses Development Exercise. Both of those exercises are already presented on the channel. After you master this exercise sufficiently and hone your visualization skills, then you can proceed summoning the spirit. However, in the case of Lilith, she is picky with whom she is working with. So if you don't feel that anything came during your evocation, I simply mean it can mean that she doesn't want to reply, but my intuition tells me that you simply need to develop your astral senses and you will be able to feel Lilith. I think since you are so attracted to this channel and this content, there is probably a certain decent possibility that Lilith actually wants to work with you, because majority of people who come to me and contact me are people who want to work with Lilith. There is something about this channel which attracts people who want to work with Lilith, and that's the purpose of the channel. Do you need full invocation or evocation to feel Lilith and for her to reply? Better you summon the entity, it's like having a better antenna to receive a signal. Better summoning is the bigger transmutation between entity and the human is. But you don't need a full evocation to receive a reply from the spirit. Now, I answered all of your questions, guys, and we will now discuss one thing correlating to the working with Lilith nobody talks about, which is the difficult and the most hard aspect of working with Lilith. So, Lilith rules the qliphothic sphere known as the Obscene Ones, or Gamaliel. And nobody talks about this sphere. Nobody talks about this. And nobody talks about what is the real aspect of this sphere. How it actually influences your life if you work with it for long enough. So if you work with this sphere for long enough, you technically start to observe the hidden motivations of humans. You start to observe the things which are actually motivating people and not things which they claim to be their motivation. You truly realize that humans are mostly motivated by things we consider shameful and animalistic. Altruistic motivation is mostly a mythology. Majority of humans are selfish in nature, and selfish, egotistic, and more or less miserable state of the world is not a reflection of some evil agenda from the outer space or higher classes. Society is a reflection of humanity. Humanity is not a reflection of society. That's what you realize when you work with Gamaliel, because once you understand what actually motivates people and what actually drives them, you can use it to your own advantage. But really, what should be stated is that can pretty quickly lead into nihilism and depression and suicidal thoughts, because once you realize that shameful truth, you will become so disgusted by humanity that you will desire to kill yourself. But that's natural part of the process. When we work with Gamaliel and when we work with Lilith, we need to accept the shameful aspects of humanity and use it for our own gain. If you want to initiate into Gamaliel, you can of course message me, I can help you with that. But if you don't want me to be your initiator, there is chant for calling Lilith to initiate into Gamaliel. And that chant is Lilith Gamaliela Egrati. You repeat this chant in a sacred space to summon Lilith with a purpose of initiation. And after you initiate, tell me guys your result with this in a comment section below. I hope your work with Lilith is something which improves your life. I hope you are capable of passing trials of this pathworking and develop your astral senses first before starting to work with the entity. And I need to say once again that if you are a sex worker, Lilith is a good choice for you to work with. Thanks for watching and see you next time.